Well, I never know with the delay in what I get on YouTube how long it takes for me to actually show up on your screen. But here I am. And the first thing I need is feedback about my audio, which has been problematic. So if you all can confirm that you can hear me, that would be great. Hello, David, DB Tech. All right, Andy, I hope I can provide enough entertainment for you to stay awake. Thank you, Count. I appreciate that. That is great to know. Um, Shout out to, well, first shout out. I'm wearing my mom and son shirt for Tammy and Ray's channel. Shout out to Tammy and Ray. I know they're real fixtures here, but hey, they are so inspirational. They have so much fun with the hobby that all right, Dwight, I'm going to talk about that Bob Show comment in a minute. But hey, shout out to Tammy and Ray. They really are inspirational. They have so much fun. They remind us this is a hobby and it's about having fun and no ducks, James. No ducks. Um, but at any rate, thank you, John, for putting up the link to Tammy and Ray's channel. So much creativity, so much fun. All right, now I told myself I was going to wear this hard hat for the whole show. But you know what? It's just too dang hot in this hat. So this hard hat. So I'm going to take this off. And put on my bucket hat. Now, the one size fits all bucket hat that I sent to James fit him rather well. It's a little small for me, but at any rate, there it is. Um, so there you have it. Sorry, I'm not looking directly at the camera. My main monitor I use for a lot of my presentations, I can't see your comments and look over here. So I'm kind of looking at an oblique angle. If I move my camera over here, you'd see a whole bunch of detritus, a mess in my shop. So I really liked broadcasting in the winter because it was dark in here. You couldn't see it. Yeah. Ed at Happy Valley, I'm glad to see you here. And yeah, I just timed the delay here on Prism Live and it's 12 seconds. What can I tell you? Let's see who else joined besides Mr. Curley. Joe Rader, I see you here. I thought of you a lot at the model show I went to over the weekend, and I'll be talking about that model show because you're such an excellent modeler. And I saw a lot of really good modeling, and I'll share a few pictures of that, but I really want to talk about my experience and what I think you can get out of that. So, hello, Chris, at Valleys 56XX, I guess. Steve, you were one of the first people here. James was first, you were second, so you are right on time. Hello, JD. How are things in Texas? I hope the weather has resolved itself and you're not in danger. We've had some really bad weather here in the Midwest. Obviously, St. Louis, where my wife's family is, she hasn't had communication with them for days. She knows they're all right. She's had minimal communication, but wow, really, really scary stuff in St. Louis. We had another tree that fell down in our neighborhood, actually, from some high winds while I was out of town in Harrisburg, but it kind of fell in the woods. I don't know if it made any sound, as they say. Who else is? Let's see. Everybody's just saying hello right now, which is cool. I have 9 topics that I can cover today. The last being a very brave live demo, and I'll start building a Craftsman kit, but not a structure kit, a boat kit, but that you all can help me pick which is the first one to build. But here is the agenda, and I'm going to try and cover these things in this order. First, I'm going to go over my space, what I've been doing. It's 8 o'clock, so I think I can kind of start this off. Ray, how are you doing? Thanks for being here. I'm going to talk about my space, what I've been doing on the space, because as much as I'd like to be modeling, I've really got to work on this space and get it right. My wife can't really enjoy it until I do a lot of jobs here and get it right. So there's a lot of construction work that needs to be done. Second, I'm going to talk about Frank Lloyd Wright. And by the way, I've got to apologize right off the bat. If you were on Johnny Railer's live stream on Friday night, I was on there for about an hour, and some of these topics I hit during that conversation, but I didn't have pictures or anything like that, so there's going to be a little bit more information. All right, yes, I've got topics. I've just got to be organized, Steve. Sorry. Um, I want to make sure that I fill the time quality wise, and I'm just not as entertaining as some of the other folks on the channel. So I did cover some of these things on. Hello, Anthony Dodge. Good to see you here, sir. But I'll cover them in a little more detail and with some photos and things, so hopefully it'll be a little bit different. And one of those is Frank Lloyd Wright and what he can tell you about how to set up your layout room. I'm then going to cover this model show I went to over the weekend in Harrisburg. I'm then going to do tool talk. I've got a crazy tool. I'm not exactly sure how to use it, so hopefully you can help. Okay. Well, Ray. Okay, Ray, at least it'll all be new to you. Um, and then I'm going to cover the topic of model railroading as art. I'm going to cover Lance Mindheim's book about that, my personal philosophy, and we're going to touch on a website that I've talked about before, but I really highly recommend to you. You know, I'm really into the psychology and the kind of spirituality of creation and what we do. So that's going to be there. Almar, hello. It looks like Rusty at Possum Bayou joined in, and I didn't see him join. Welcome. There he is. Okay, welcome, Rusty. Then I've got a book to cover, another book to cover called Journal Insights. And then if we still have time, I'm going to start building a Craftsman boat kit for my layout. So it looks like there's JP. What's up, JP? Don't worry, JP. I haven't forgotten about doing more layout planning, and I keep carrying around layout planning materials and then not planning my layout. I don't know whether that's like avoidance or something, but I do know how important that is. So without further ado, I am going to change my view here and share my computer screen with you all. And hopefully that will come up in 12 seconds. And then it looks like it should come up. And then we can start talking. There we go. Okay, so sorry about the delay there. I'm kind of having a brain lapse waiting for the picture to come up. So here's the view. This is a drone shot of my drone hovering right over the property. You can't see the property, but I wanted to kind of set the scene. I'm going to go back and kind of talk a little bit about the space generally for a few minutes for those who haven't seen it or don't remember. So this is the view. That is a railroad bridge in the background, and I have yet to catch a train going over there. But someday I'm going to camp out with my drone, get up there, and get some shots over that bridge. It's pretty cool. So here is now the drone camera is facing down, and you're looking directly down onto the space, and it's that obviously rectangular structure in the middle of the screen. You know, just a straight hip roof, nothing fancy. That concrete structure in the front, you can kind of see my cursor here. That's a concrete ramp for wheelchairs. Got a dumpster in the back. That's not our dumpster. We have a slightly larger dumpster. These were taken before I actually closed on the property. We've got parking for about 12 cars. We've got about, I don't know, $15,000 or more in asphalt paving work that needs to be done there. But at any rate, that's kind of a top side view of the structure. Here's another view. Oh, and I should go back a little bit just to point out a few. You can see here there's railroad tracks in the foreground. You'll hear the trains going by occasionally during my live streams. Mark, good to see you. Stu Structures. Again, another guy I thought of over the weekend when I was looking at modeling. Whenever I think of the creative process, Mark comes to mind. So you can see this is the Allegheny River here. This street is Freeport Road, and in between Freeport Road and the Allegheny is the Norfolk and Southern line here. And there's, I don't know, 5 or 6 trains a day maybe that come through here, a lot of coal drags. At any rate, but that's kind of the general scene. So for a model railroad guy, it's kind of a great location. Okay, there's kind of a front view of the structure. You can see it's pretty basic. It's just looks almost like a mobile home, you know, but it's obviously significantly larger than a mobile home. And yes, it needs a new roof. I'm working on that. Whoa, what happened there? Let me go back here. So this is, I don't know why that won't, I'll zoom in. There we go. So this is a overview of the structure, and I know I've shared some pencil drawings of the space, but here is, hello, Deep Run Mike. Good to see you. Good to see you here. So here's kind of an overview of the structure. And you can see, starting from the left, there are freight doors on that side where the dumpster is. There's a little storage nook in here. It used to hold beer kegs. This was formerly a beer distributorship. Before that, a gunsmith shop. This small room here is my wife's grow room. It is almost done. I need to hang some grow lamps, which I have. I just haven't hung them up yet. A 10 by 14 foot room. It's got glass block windows in it. On the other side of the hallway is the workshop, which is 10 by 16, basically. And you've seen a lot of posts of me tearing out foam and stuff in this, and I'll share some pictures of that in a minute. This is where I've been doing most of my work lately, but I'll talk about that. There's a bathroom and a kitchen area here. It's currently all of the above. It's got a toilet in it and a sink. And it also has a big commercial sink in it that I put in, replacing a crappy one that was there. And I have to divide that space up and make the bathroom nice. Then I think my wife will spend more time here. Jerry, good to see you. Thank you, Boxcar Jerry, for coming on board. No, every time someone says, here's grow room, they think we're growing marahooch. We are not. My wife tried it once in Colorado where it was legal, and she did not like it. I like it, but I don't care. I like life better than I like being high. So, but at any rate, no weed in the grow room yet. I should be growing tomatoes to do our grow competition, Jerry, but I'm not. So now this main area to the right, this white area is the area that I've identified as the layout space. It's really just one giant area. This future office area is all really part of the space right now, but my wife is going to have an office in that space. So I thought this might be a little more helpful for you to visualize the space. Yeah, really, Steve. I don't know. I don't know about food quality. There's no food really being prepared in here right now. But, you know, JP, I am planning on, and I have a really high quality outdoor grill, built-in grill. So I am planning on reducing the size of the parking lot, building a deck out there, building some covered parking for my wife and I, and installing the grill outside. So you're a mind reader. Yes, there will be barbecue being prepared, but not in competition with my friends across the street who have a restaurant. So at any rate, here you go. This is kind of a view of the shop, just so you can see what it looks like inside. All right. All right, now here is that bathroom kitchen area. Just so you know, I'm not kidding. It needs electrical work. It needs a floor. It's really crude right now, so it's no shock that my wife doesn't want to come in here. So let's see. So at any rate, I'm going to expand these windows. I'll build a wall that kind of comes out here and across here and encloses this to make it a half bath. And ultimately, money permitting, I'm going to have these water lines split and diverted outside. And then during non-freezing temperatures, I'm going to have an outdoor shower out there. So, yeah, but I've got to build a curtain wall. This is like a 10-foot high ceiling. It's such a small area, I won't be able to assemble the wall and then raise it. I'm going to have to stick build the wall, but all doable. I think I can do the drywall work well enough to get that done. So now this was the workshop, and many of you have seen these pictures. I have been posting them. This was the workshop after the foam had been torn out. It was a walk-in beer cooler covered with foam. This is not most of the foam. Most of the foam I've saved and is behind me. You can see about half of it stacked up behind me. I think Pappy at Trigoglin said I had enough foam to make Mount Everest. Ed, I don't know when the open house is going to be. It's going to be a while. But I will say this. Anybody who's in Pittsburgh, you're just coming through, you need to stop by, say hi. I'll show you what I'm doing. We'll grab a meal. I'd love to see you all in person. If you're coming through, please just don't hesitate. This community is wonderful, and I would really love to see you here. So this is what it looked like. There was mold against that back wall, as you can kind of see. So I filled the dumpster up 3 times, but I couldn't get rid of all that stuff. So I went to the dump 3 times, and this is a sample load. I would load up the back of my truck with foam, cover it with a tarp, and drive to the dump, which was 20 plus miles. And then the guys at the dump got to know me so well that they asked for information about my layout, and I gave them coasters and links to the channel. Crazy. The guys at the dump got to know me that well on my trips. So this is what the room looked like after I got it cleaned out, but before I removed the fan and I tore out that drywall. Now, when I dug into that drywall, there was a little mold behind it right around the window area. It was not black mold, but I thought in an abundance of caution, I'd go ahead and tear all of it out on that wall. And so I'm going to have to re-sheetrock that entire wall. So, all right. So here's the window area. I tore out some of the insulation in order to just see what I was working with. I'm going to cut this down. It's currently 24 inches wide. It's 24 by 24. I'm going to cut another 24 inches down and have a 24 by 48 inch casement window there, which I already have. I have to rerun that electric and unfortunately do quite a bit of work on the outside. And here's that window. Just took a picture of that today. So that's in the space. Here's a spot on the wall. I know Ray's been doing some drywall work. Well, there's some drywall work I'm going to have to do. In addition to doing that entire wall, they tore this out. There was you can see an electrical box. There was a power line running down to that electrical box. There are 10 outlet boxes, including this one, running around the perimeter of the room because it was used as a machine shop at one time. None of those have power, so I'm going to have to figure that out. There's a couple of unused circuits I'm going to have to open up and see if those power those outlets. Got to see where this line is going. I think this line, they may have run this line up to the cooler. uh, cooler unit that was hanging from the ceiling. If so, I know which breaker that is, so I'll have to figure that out. It'd be great to have all those outlets running, obviously, in a workshop, so I will definitely be doing that. Now, here's kind of what the walls look like. You can kind of see this is looking, I'm standing at that black computer you can see kind of in the distance there. Um, but you can see what happened to the walls when and ceiling when the guy tore out all this insulation. It tore off a lot of the paper, and so it's going to be a major cleanup effort to get that right in order to be paintable. Um, but you can see on the right, I've started doing some work. I've cleaned that up. I've put a coat of primer on there, which looks like it's going to work okay. So now I can go back with some light drywall compound, fill in all the depressions on these walls, and then I'll paint it with a mold killing primer after that. So it's yeah, really, Todd, it does. Hey, Todd, welcome aboard. Glad to see you here. So it's kind of crazy stuff. Yeah, in addition to the mold, when I took out that old fan, I thought maybe the fan was part of the cooling process for the beer distributor, but based on the condition of that wall there, the wood there, that was really badly rotted out. It could have been, but at any rate, I had to. That wood is totally rotten. I'm going to be cutting it all out anyway, so it's not a big deal. But the other thing I discovered, however, is that what you see here is actually what the outside of the building looks like too, underneath the siding. There's no house wrap. There's just this XPS foam insulation against the cinder block with vertical lath strips because there was horizontal siding that was attached to it. So there's no house wrap. So I'm guessing I'm going to have to wrap the house as I go around putting new siding on. And I'm not going to do the whole structure at once or even in one season. But I'm going to start with the back wall out of sight, and I will, because we want to put vertical siding on, of course. So it's going to be, I'm going to have to redo some of the lath in order to have support for the siding, vertical siding, and then I'm going to have to wrap the place, at least in building paper. Maybe not anything more fancy, but I don't know. At any rate, so it's become a big project, but it needs to be done anyway. So this is what I'll be doing for the next few weeks, I have a feeling, is prepping these walls and trying to get some of the interior stuff done, but we shall see. Now, the last thing about this space, and then I'm going to switch over to topic number two, which is Frank Lloyd Wright, is yeah, absolutely, Ray. I mean, there's a huge amount of work that needs to be done on the space. I hate, but my alternative was to buy like a condo space where I might have a landlord or fellow tenants scrutinizing me. I wanted this standalone structure where I could do whatever I want. If I want to make paint fumes, I can make paint fumes. If I want to move in here, I can move in here, right? I mean, I just want to be able to use it as I see fit. At the front of this store is the store. At the front of the building is this sign. And I need to get up there and remove that panel, but that panel is 13 feet above the ground. And as you can see, the ground slopes away from the sign on the street side. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to start building a wall, a retaining wall, short retaining wall, but a retaining wall along that whole edge of the property where it meets the sidewalk. And I'll start there, and that will provide a little bit of a platform for a ladder in order to get up there and pull those panels out. But in the meantime, people drive by and see this sign and they want to come in and get beer. And so this is a buy, Steve. I paid cash for this property. And so I put up this, I keep coming in, knocking on the door. Literally 2 or 3 times a week, somebody comes in here. Even though there's signs on the pedestrian doors here that say private office, no public admittance, they still knock looking for beer. So the other side of the sign is the weather side, and you can barely read it, but this side they can read. So, yeah, that's true, Ed. I could paint over it. But instead, I had the fun of putting up this sign closed, no beer, sorry. And when I showed that to the other SDS guys, they went crazy. I could rent a lift, Steve. I'm cheap. um, but I have priced out a new sign. Uh, so I think it'll be a couple $100 to get new vinyl to cover up those. And they're pretty badly cracked. I'll have to see if I can maybe sandblast those clean. We'll have to see. But the other SDS guys and I had some fun proposing signs. One of Ray's suggestions that I liked was, "Oh dear, no beer." That would have been good. John at Kill River Valley suggested, "No beer, I drank it all." I like that. And there were a lot of other suggestions. But at any rate, I'm going to have fun with this sign. My wife is a very private person, and she doesn't like the idea of me throwing up crazy signs. So during the election cycle, I really wanted to put some signs up, but I didn't do it. But at any rate, I have the letters, and I'll be having fun doing this in the future. So I'm going to preserve the sign. It needs a lot of work. A lot of rust has to be removed, repainted, but I think it'll be fun. All right, so the next thing I'm going to talk about and thank you for tolerating all of that. Ed at Happy Valley, painting over is a good idea. I could climb up there quickly with a can of spray paint and just paint over that, but then I might have trouble removing it. So I don't know. That's good. I could tape something up there, just cover it up in some way, right? So it's a good idea. So, thank you for tolerating that. This explains why I'm not building as much bench work as I'd like to. When it was bad weather, I could do a little bit more because I couldn't work as much on the space. But now I'm really working on the space. So it's hard to focus on the bench work. The only table I built is this one behind me. But it's coming. It's coming. So my next tale, and thanks for that, James, about hitting the like button. I appreciate that. Now, my next tale is about Frank Lloyd Wright and a lesson I learned about our layout spaces from Frank Lloyd Wright that I'm going to be implementing, and I think you might be able to too. Unbeknownst to me, so here we go. I've just gotten through one of the most difficult parts of my year because I have to come up with a lot of gifts for my wife and celebrate her multiple times. So, April 26th, our wedding anniversary. May 4th, her birthday, and this year, May 11th, Mother's Day. 3 days back to back. And I always say, I either run out of ideas, money, or both by the end of those 3 days. Well, one of those days, I promised her a trip to Erie because we do like to run up to Erie. There's a lot of rail history up there. And I had hoped to stop in Newcastle and look at the Casgro facilities and hopefully see some of their specialty rail cars parked around town, but I didn't get a chance to do that. But it's like 45 minutes outside of Pittsburgh, so I can make a separate run. But one of the things that my wife discovered when we were up in Erie was that Frank Lloyd Wright's office from California has been rebuilt in Erie. Who would have thought? Of course, Frank Lloyd Wright has a lot of Pennsylvania connections with Falling Water, and there's probably other structure. I think there's an office he built in downtown Pittsburgh for the guy who owned the Falling Water property. So he's got a lot of Pennsylvania connections. But at any rate, this is his office from San Francisco that was created up, ultimately purchased and rebuilt in Erie. It's free to see, so if you ever go to Erie, you can go to the Erie Historical Society Museum and go in and see this place. So if you're a Frank Lloyd Wright fan, it's definitely worth seeing. And they've gone so far. The ceiling is exactly the way the ceiling looked like in the room, the space that he rented in San Francisco. You know, he didn't build this building, but he did build furniture and furnishings within the space that are typical Frank Lloyd Wright space. And they went so far as on the windows of the space, they have pictures of what you could see out the windows of the actual space in San Francisco. So when you go in there and you look out a window, that's what Frank Lloyd Wright or his staff would have seen when they looked out that window. So very interesting. Now, the one thing, so I'm a big Frank Lloyd Wright fan. I've been to Falling Water a couple of times, I think, at least once. I have been to Taliesin, his Phoenix property. And one of the things that, hey, Ken Amos, glad to see you there. Thanks for stopping by. And one of the things that Frank Lloyd Wright believed in was something called compression and release. And he was never a big fan of hallways. And if you ever go into, at least these Frank Lloyd Wright structures that I've been in, I haven't been in enough to say they're all like this, but if you go into a Frank Lloyd Wright structure, or residence anyway, the hallways are narrow, short, and dark. Not a lot of windows. He doesn't want to waste a lot of space on hallways. And he also wants to create compression and release. Okay? So you walk through this narrow hallway, low ceiling, dark materials, and you feel compressed. You feel like and then when you step into the room, release. The ceilings are high, there's light, and you have this feeling of, expansion and optimism. And that is what you can do with your layout space, and that is what I am going to do with my layout space. So in this case, you see that wall. You can see my wife talking with the docent in the background of this picture. Sorry, it's not as clear as it could be. Frank Lloyd Wright used plywood panels, simple plywood panels, to make that wall that you see in the middle there, going off at an angle. It's at an angle of 120 degrees. Frank Lloyd Wright was in love with 120-degree angles. But there's a roof, there's a deck right on top of that. Okay, so it's maybe 7 feet high. David DB Tech would be very claustrophobic. And there's a little hallway, and I'll show you where that is, but it's only 7 feet high. And when you come in the door of the space, you have to turn and go through this little hallway, and then you come out into the space that I'm standing in and take this photograph, and boom, you have this release feeling, okay? So let me show you that from another angle. So here's my wife still talking to the docent, but you can see how low this ceiling is and where this picture is of the butterfly bridge that Wright designed but never built. You'd have to walk through underneath that pot there. You'd have to walk through that little hallway in order to get into the main area. Yes, Dave at DB Tech, Falling Water is kind of built for small people. People were smaller. Frank Lloyd Wright was small. But I think a 7-foot high ceiling should be enough to create this compression and release thing. And I've got a drawing here from, you can see here's where you walk through this area here in order to get into the next room, and you can see this deck where it says deck above. This is all covered at 7 feet high. So it creates this compression and release. So how does this apply to your model railroad? How many railroads are built in a basement? So you already have this built in, right? You walk down the stairs, and when you step into the layout room, everything opens up. So my suggestion is accent that compression if you can. If you've got the kind of ubiquitous "this way to the train" sign, lower it down. Put it on a board and lower it down to 7 feet so that people feel like they almost have to duck. Use some curtains or something to create a little narrowness. Hey, Sparky, how are you doing? So that when they step into the space, they have this release feeling, and boom. Now, I'm sure you're already thinking about, you got to have a signature scene when they come in, right? So that they're wowed by the modeling and the railroad. And that's still true. But I think if you use the compression and release concept, it'll improve the visitor experience in your layout. I mean, if they have that compression feel, boom, they have light, they have a tall ceiling, and right in front of them is your signature scene. Those things combine together to really make an impact on your visitors. So how am I going to do that here on my space? I'm going to build a low thing out of plywood, just like Frank Lloyd Wright did, and with 120-degree angles and dark walls, so that when people come into the space, they either have to make a choice, turn to the right and they have compression and release, they go into the lobby area, or they turn to the left and go into the layout room. But either way, they're going to have that feeling. And then I'm kind of planning the scene that will be right there when they walk in. So that's the lesson that I learned from Frank Lloyd Wright. So just for grins, this happened to be in the folder I had planned on talking about this. This is not the plan for my layout. This is the plan for I think he's the assistant superintendent of the NMRA Division 2 for the Mid-Central region, I think it's called. At any rate, this is his plan for his O-scale layout. But really nice layout that I got to see during the layout tours during the Jamboree. 120 degrees, Ed, and I'm not exactly sure. He thinks that creates symmetry, and so you'll see a lot of that. Like there's a triangular pool on the Taliesin property, and at least one of the angles is 120 degrees. I mean, he uses that angle everywhere. So, but this is a great plan. You can see he did this massive O-scale blast furnace complex over here on this side. That is on the cover of the Steel Modeler SIG magazine this month. And here is a incredibly beautiful bridge that was built by the CMR people, Custom Model Railroad people in Baltimore, for him. Although obviously he's capable of building a bridge if he could build this blast furnace thing. But at any rate, it's a really nice plan, and I really enjoyed going to see his layout. So enough about Frank Lloyd Wright. Thank you for. Well, that's a good point, Ray. Yeah, painting it black probably isn't going to work. And Frank Lloyd Wright didn't have his black either, but if you notice, that was redwood plywood that was used in there. And honestly, I don't know if it was stained or what. It was pretty dark colored, as you could see. And that may have had a coat of clear finish on it of some sort. I don't know, but yeah, don't do everything, but whatever you can do to create that compression and release, I think would be cool, and it would be an effective ploy to get people. You're going to hit people's emotions coming into your layout room. That's kind of cool. All right, so now I see I guess I'm on schedule. I'm now going to talk about my experience at the amps model competition this weekend. So this competition, this was the Armor Modeling and Preservation Society, or AMPS is the name of the group. And this was held at the Penn Harris Hotel in Harrisburg. Now, I know this is static modeling. This is not railroad modeling. I get that, and I won't spend too much time on that. But of all the static modelers, the group that has the most that I think we share are the guys who build tanks and armored fighting vehicles and trucks and stuff, because they have to do the same kind of weathering. They create a lot of dioramas that feature these things, and so they use a lot of the techniques that we could use. So therefore, I do think it is kind of interesting for us. Let's see. So, and here's the show: Military Model Show, Armor Model and Preservation Society. That's the name of the group. So if you see a model show around, and armored trains would count, Ed. Anything that's on the ground, it can be science fiction if it's on the ground. Like an X-wing fighter is no good, but a walker is good. Yes, weathering techniques and weathering products too, Steve. There's tons of, AK Interactive was one of the biggest vendors at this show. They took up probably a third of the vendor space, and Squadron took a lot of it too. If you remember Squadron back in the days, that brand has been reinvigorated. But let's see. Let me go back here and see what I can show you. But I did go to a seminar. I went to a seminar about how to make bricks, cobblestones, block walls, etc., out of XPS foam. That was pretty useful. Might be a little hard to execute in 1/87th scale, but it was very interesting. Hey, I see Heath is here. Hey, Heath. Sorry I missed you coming in. So I'm going to show you a couple of fun things. Now here is, it doesn't look as sharp as I'd like. Maybe that's a little sharper. This was one of my favorite dioramas, and there's another picture of this. Sorry, there's another picture of this that shows the. There we go. So here you can see this fellow recreated this comic book cover with a blue Tiger One, yellow walls. He did the best he could. He couldn't do everything exactly as it is on that. That's a Joe Kubrick cover, I'm pretty confident, based on the style of the drawing. And so that's a little hard to replicate all that action, but really great idea. And it really tied in with the show because there was supposed to be a Stuart tank present. Stuart tanks were all made in Berwick, Pennsylvania. They were coming down with an operating Stuart tank. Unfortunately, the transport truck broke down. The tank was working, but they couldn't get the thing down here because the truck broke down. So, but that's a nice tie-in because this particular comic is about the haunted tank, which is a Stuart tank, haunted by the ghost of Jeb Stuart. So it was a great tie-in for the show, but tremendous creativity making this thing. Now I'm just gonna go through some pictures. Now, I did do some rail fanning there. I didn't see any trains. They were not moving. Obviously, I saw trains. I went to a place called the Train Watchers Bridge with high hopes that I would see a train, but there was no train moving. I was kind of fascinated by that XS type blue box car. It's a GATX car. Saw some interesting trackage. And this train moved maybe 50 yards, then stopped. I was there for over an hour. It didn't go anywhere. So pretty disappointing. But I'm going to scroll through some pictures, and I am a 1/72nd scale modeler, and that's what's closest to 1/87 scale. So a lot of what you're going to see here is 1/72nd scale modeling. But what I did was I actually was recruited to be a judge. And I've never judged a model contest before. And I want to tell you that it was a great experience, and I urge you, if you ever get the opportunity to judge a model contest, to do it. Now, the first thing I'm going to tell you is you can do this. Everybody on this stream has built a model. If you built a model, you can judge models. Do not fall victim to imposter syndrome and think that you can't judge models. You can build models good enough to go to this international competition. Let me tell you. One of the models that I had to judge, I was on a team of judges, and they knew I was a newbie, but I still had a vote just like everybody else. One of the models that we had to review was supposedly by an advanced modeler. And as I told my fellow judges, if they had told me that model had been built by a junior, I would have believed him. It was terrible. The vehicle itself was pretty good, and that's really all we were judging, but everything else about it was terrible. Figures unpainted, base all screwed up, and it's just terrible. So forget about imposter syndrome. Go to a model show, and if they need a judge, in this case, they had more entries than they'd ever had before, and they were kind of expecting that. And so they were recruiting everybody and his brother to be a judge. And so I was able to volunteer and go in and judge, and it was a great experience. Stressful? Yes. But boy, did I learn a lot about, sorry, some of these didn't come out very well. Boy, did I learn a lot about how to be a better modeler and what really counts. And one of the most, some of the most important things are making sure everything lines up, making sure your seams are all actually closed. Where you need to apply putty, that it's done properly, it's sanded clean, it's painted properly, and so you can't see the seam. Basic things like that even advanced modelers get wrong. In the case of a vehicle, making sure all of the wheels touch the ground, right? So when you are putting a truck on your layout, make sure the wheels are all touching the ground. Pretty basic stuff, but that's what's going to make it look more realistic. Now, this is a Renault FT in 1/72nd scale, maybe 1.25 inches long. Tiny, just tiny. I don't like that weathering by the cupola there, right? That doesn't look right, but it was a junior model. Pretty sure. Oh, basic. You can see the category check there, basic. So that's one level up from a junior. So here's another one, better done, Renault FT in 1/72nd scale. So those are the lessons. Just make sure your construction is good. If you're building an airplane, make sure that the wings are straight. If you're building a boat for your layout, make sure that the side bulwark is all parallel the entire length of the hull, and that if the hull sides are supposed to be vertical into the water, make sure that they're vertical. basic stuff that will be a dead giveaway that your model is not a good model. So it was very, 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 very educational, I have to say. So, sorry, I haven't been through these pictures. But the other thing, as someone else pointed out, weathering, Steve, I think, pointed out, weathering is a big deal in the armor ranks. And so they've learned a lot. I don't necessarily like all this weathering. That one's too dark to really show up. This is nice. But this was by a master or an advanced modeler. Very nicely weathered pin washes, bringing out the paneling details. The whip aerials were very fine and very straight. Just really well done. Didn't get to judge this one, but I saw it and it was fantastic. So just a ton to learn from the armor modeling community. So please take advantage of that if you get a chance to do it. All right. So enough about static modeling where they don't have trains running. Now I'm gonna divert over to tool talk, and I hope I've got enough light on my surface here. Gonna change my view here. All right, well, that looks good enough. So here is my tool, and I had never seen this before, this precision hand stabilizer. If somebody in the chat has any experience with this, I'd love for you to tell me. I thought it was a Dispae product, right? Like DSPAE. But this says U-Star. I don't see Dispae anywhere on it, nor are there any instructions in any language. So, but as I've mentioned in the past, I have what are called essential tremors, which my father had before me. And I'll have to tell my joke about this. When I went to the neurologist, he said, "You have essential tremors." I said, "There's nothing essential about them." And he said, No, you don't understand. They're part of your essence." They're part of my essence. I should have turned around and said, "That means you have no bleeping idea what causes it. You have no idea." But I didn't. But at any rate, essential tremors. So I wanted to find a way to steady my hand for modeling work. And I've recommended the Plastic Model Mojo podcast in the past. And one of the guys on there actually uses this thing and mentioned using it. And so I decided I would take a look at it. So here it is. From the side, so you can see what it is. It's this base unit. I had to cut this pad out to I had to cut this pad out to not have it overlapping the edges, but it's got this base unit here. Here's the side view of that. And then it's got this arm on this fairly heavy ball. I mean, it probably weighs 8 ounces, something like that. And that fits directly into this. Hopefully my camera will focus. There we go. Panasonic is famous for not having good focus, and so it's holding true. So I think how this thing works, I'm not seeing anybody giving me any hints in chat about how this works. I believe how this works is you place this rod in here in the fold of your hand, right here. And it kind of holds your hand steady. So you would work, kind of like this, and you would put this, so, and then lean against the ball, I guess. I really don't know. just on visual observation, it does appear to to steady the hand a little bit, but I'm not exactly sure. Maybe it should be all the way out on your fingertips. I don't know. If Anthony Dodge is still on, I know Anthony has some tremors as well. And so the jury's still out on this, Anthony. It wasn't dirt cheap. Right, Dave. I just, but it's not really, it's heavy, but it moves around pretty. I can move it with two fingers easily. So it doesn't provide a ton of resistance, but maybe just enough to keep your fingers steady. And, maybe the heel of my hand is resting on this ball, and then I'm resting my fingers on there. So maybe I don't know. All right, Mark, you're on a roll here. Um, so I don't know about this tool, but if anybody's got any pointers, I will try it when I start to do some really detailed work. I will try. I can see where it does you can see my fingers still twitching. So I don't know. As I mentioned before, my doctor in Texas always said, just have an old fashioned. Alcohol does settle down essential tremors, but I don't really like drinking that much. So this will probably be more useful. So that's kind of that's the only tool I have for you today. I hope it works out. Again, if anybody has any pointers, I would love to have them. Excuse me while I wet my whistle here. Good. All right. So, Model Railroading as Art by Lance Mindtime. Sorry, I can't. Uh, I've got my zoom lens over my desk. Will not retract any further. I can't seem to lock it in place like I told Dave to do. So, at any rate, I'm not the only person who thinks that model railroading is art. Lance Mindheim, as I'm told his name is pronounced, Lance Mindheim, also thinks that. He wrote an entire book about it. This book, I'm not going to go into this in great detail because we're coming up on the hour, but I highly recommend this book. It covers a lot of ground. It's kind of self-published, so it's got some weird formatting, but he really, if you know Lance's work, he does incredible work. He talks about applying techniques that are applied in the art world to structure modeling, scenery, that sort of thing. And so it's just a really good book. If you want to improve your scenery building, I do recommend this highly. So when you say you use extra fingers, I need more guidance from you. What does that mean exactly? I assume you're not joking there. I could get my wife to come in and hold my hand. I don't know. I'm just kidding. But I don't know what you mean by extra fingers. Hi, Randall Ellison. I don't think I said hello. Good to see you. So, at any rate, this book by Lance Mindheim is recommended. He thinks model railroading is art. I think model railroading is art. And I want to say right now that I'm proud to be a member of this community because it's a community of artists. It's a community of creators. Everybody here is building models, building a layout. They're creating something. They're doing electronics to make something work. They're building circuits. You know, they're creating. And so I'm very proud to be part of that. I feel like I'm a creator and I value the creative process. I think it's very important to our happiness. And I see. So if you're doing work with your right hand like this, you might put your hand here, or I'm just trying to replicate what you would do. Maybe like that, Mark, just to steady those. Well, and you're right, Ray. I mean, some do see it as a science, but I see it as an art. I guess that's my personal take on it. Um, and certainly the kind of things that Bruce Chubb does um, is more like science than art. But at the end of the day, he's got a miniature railroad in front of him. Is that science? I don't know. At any rate, so a website that I recommend, and you can see my notes here where I wrote bokeh. And hopefully one of my buddies out there will post the link to the Bokeh Bushido website. And this guy is all about the mental aspects of creation. Let me, well, I've got one more thing to show you, so I don't want to take it off this. I'll talk about Bokeh Bushido in a moment. I want to talk instead about this guided journal for modelers. This is, I'm sorry, that's kind of sideways for you, I guess. So a little hard to read sideways, isn't it? So this is a journal that asks questions and asks you to write answers to questions about modeling. Now, again, it's about static modeling, but I do think it has some bearing on what we do, and it makes you think about what you're doing. So here's one question. Do you prefer short bursts at the bench or longer sessions? What are the pros and cons of your way? So makes you think about, okay, when am I most productive? Should I try doing something different? Maybe I should try working for 10 or 15 minutes at lunch every day. You know, so there are a lot of probing questions in this guided journal for modelers. It's at the Journal Insights website. Thank you, Ray, for putting that up on the screen. And so there's a lot of, this is very insightful and makes you think about your hobby efforts. So I think it's great. Now, Bokeh Bushido. Okay, I'm reading Mark's comment here. I want to process this. On one hand, I use the thumb and the first two fingers to do the work, and I use the two small fingers as a tripod. I see. So you're not using the fingers from the other hand. Steady the same hand. Mark, you're just going to have to do a video about it. I'm not necessarily following you perfectly there, but I need that. Good night, Andy. Thanks for staying up late and listening to me. I appreciate it. And I appreciate all of you for being out there. Thank you very much. Now, back to, and I've only got a few minutes here, but back to Bokeh Bushido. His latest video, which is what Ray has posted a link to, is about creativity and longevity. This has nothing to do with photography, which he does more than anything more than it has to do with painting or sculpture or building a layout. Is that the creative process is good for you, and it helps you live a longer life. And the other thing about it is, I think, and I guess I can go back to my solo view here. And the other thing that's important to know is that the community that we have here also contributes to our longevity. Having a sense of community and being together like this is very important for longevity, you know. So I really think it's valuable. So let's see. Thanks, JD. I appreciate that. Now let me see, JP. You say I don't care for regimented hobby tasking. It's there when I need them. I got you. I got you. Right. So you're not setting a schedule and saying every day I'm going to work for X number of hours or X number of minutes or whatever it might be. It's just when you want to do it. And I think that's true. And we have to keep in mind this is a hobby. Um, I completely agree with you, JP. And I don't know. Right now, I'm so swamped with property renovation tasks, it's hard to imagine having any meditative time. But at any rate, so let me see. What did I have on my list? So the last thing on my list, and maybe I don't really have time to get started on it, but I do want to get the group's opinion. Uh, Thanks, JP. We enjoy your participation, and I really valued your comments on my layout design, and I will be taking those to heart. Trust me. So I'm going to turn away from the camera for a minute. I have a choice between two kits. I may have to go back to my overhead view. All right, I'm going to go back to my overhead view here. So these are the two kits that I'm choosing between. And now, as you know, I'm modeling the Gulf Coast. There's a lot of water. It's good for the psyche, not the psycho, Steve. If you're talking psycho, you're talking me, not Ray. Uh, it might be good for us psychos too. I don't know. But at any rate, here are the two kits that I'm going to choose between to do my first boat for the layout. Now, one is this little oyster boat kit from Conowingo, and it's you can kind of see it's kind of a flat-bottomed, shallow water, calm water kind of little vessel. Google Lens. I don't know Google Lens, Deep Mike. Steve, I'm laughing at your comment. And the other is this Carolina Craftsman's utility boat kit. Um, so, what do you all think? Which would be more appropriate for the Gulf Coast? Which one should I do first? I'm not really sure. I know from a simplicity standpoint, this kind of Wingo kit is ultra simple. They're both kind of a bag of sticks, and I do like the Craftsman kit. I do like the bag of sticks. I'm not saying that in a derogatory manner. um, but I don't know. You're voting for Carolina, Ray? Is that because you know that? Hey, Ron, good to see you. I'm going to be winding down here in a few minutes. I'm just getting some votes on which kit to start with, and I'm getting a lot on the Carolina Craftsman kit. And I'm wondering, is that because of the Carolina reputation, or because of the style of the boat? Okay, Deep Run. I will search Google for how to use Google Lens. Um, so while folks are contemplating these two kits, I'm going to go completely sidetrack on you. And that is, I'm going to talk a little bit about AI. And there is some connection to, I'm gonna see if I can find my, I did a side-by-side thumbnail test of an AI-generated thumbnail and my own photographic thumbnail. And I think I had a picture of those things side by side that you all could take a look at. No, that's not it. at any rate, this was the thumbnail that was generated by AI that I ultimately used. I used a variation of this. It kind of messed with my thumbnail, my channel branding. Oyster boat. Oh, Deep Run likes the oyster boat too. Okay. Likes the oyster boat, the smaller oyster boat. Okay. Um, so this was the AI generated thumbnail. The other thumbnail was a picture of the model. Um, so something like this. It was clear. I'm just grabbing a shot that, but and I did a thumbnail using this, and I did a thumbnail using the AI, and I was going to see, okay, which one is going to get more clicks. And it was interesting to see that YouTube was measuring watch time based on the thumbnail, not click-through rate. I thought they would have measured click-through rate, and that's really what I wanted to see, was which generated more click-through rate. I don't know. There's usually some method to their madness at YouTube. At any rate, it was interesting to find out that, and I'll go back to my other view here. It was interesting that they were basically neck and neck in terms of watch time. The video did very well for me at about 500 views, which for me is a fairly large number. And it was about 50-50 on the thumbnail, a little bit more on the AI, maybe 2% more on the AI, not a lot, but oh, okay. Couldn't tell from the picture that whether it was an oyster boat or a canoe. Yeah. Sorry, video quality is a little low. There is a canoe that's part of the Conowingo Models branding. Down below is the oyster boat. Let me see if I can get the. Here you go. See. So Conowingo Models is a canoe. The oyster boat is down below. It would have to be a shrimp boat for the Gulf Coast, but at any rate. So there's that a little bit about AI. But if you're like me, you don't know a lot about AI, and what you do know about AI is a little scary. So I want to tell you my experience, and that is, I applied for a job to be an AI tutor, to help tutor artificial intelligence, large language models, as they're called, in the law. I'm a lawyer. So I was going to tutor AI in the law. Sorry, I'm starting to fire. And the first thing I did, and I apologize for this lingo, but I want to be accurate and tell you what I was doing, and it's fairly sophisticated work. I was presented with a scenario where I was supposed to create a prompt for AI about a commercial bank starting to use blockchain technology to execute international transactions. And they were worried about the compliance risk associated with that. And so I crafted a prompt for the AI that basically said, how does the speed of the transactions, because blockchain transactions are all online, they're almost instantaneous. How does the speed of blockchain transactions increase compliance risk? That was my question. Kind of knew the answer was it doesn't. You still got to do all the other stuff that you did before you can do a transaction that is compliance required. So AI came up with an incredibly long and accurate answer about blockchain technology and the compliance risks associated with blockchain transactions. But it did not address speed at all. And there was AI analyzing the answer, and the AI that analyzed the answer said, "Oh, that's a great answer." And I knew they didn't answer the question at all. So I rephrased the question. My objective was to break the model. So I rephrased the question a little more carefully, emphasizing speed and saying, I want to know about speed and what speed. And then I broke the model. Couldn't answer, it did not answer the question. It didn't have information about it. It really couldn't think and creatively analyze the problem. And so at the end of the day, I left that particular exercise not as afraid of AI as I was. It can collect together a ton of information. And the information that it gave me about blockchain and compliance related to blockchain was very good, but it didn't answer the question. So I really did. I'm less afraid of AI. Now that I'm an AI tutor, I can see how dumb it is. Bottom line. It's no better than any other vast collection of information. It's not really thinking. It's not really capable of human thought yet. Maybe it will be down the road. But right now, it's still a huge collection of information. Now, I do think, yeah, well, Kyle, I broke the AI, and that is the job. When you're an AI tutor, your job is to ask questions that AI can't answer. And then once you've shown across 2 or 3 large language models that they can't get the answer right, then it's your job as the subject matter expert to come up with the right answer and tell it to AI and give it supporting documentation if that's appropriate. So, but yes, I broke it and it was easy. It took me 10 minutes. So, AI isn't that smart. But I will say, that's right. I'm not real. I'm just a robot. But I do think, and I've had a ton of fun, and I've done some posting on social media about images that I've generated with AI, and I think that could very well have some applications for us. I'll bring that image back up again. So this is, I asked AI to do a watercolor painting of this building, and I had a little I had an HO scale car in front of it, and so this is what it did, and it's a pretty image. I said I want a city in the background. I gave it a lot of information in the prompt in order to get this to come out this way, and I think it did a pretty good job. And then I gave it another image, which was my channel art, and I said, put this in the bottom right-hand corner, and it did that. And honestly, it's quicker to produce this thumbnail than it is to open up a graphics program, manipulate a photo, and I still had to manipulate this because I couldn't get it to put the title of the video across the top properly. So I ended up having to manipulate it a little bit manually. But I do think that for creating images like this for your thumbnails, if you're actively producing content, it does have its advantages. Yeah, I know, Beaumont Hill. It can be difficult, and I got a lot of bad results, and it's difficult. Steve, you're on a roll. You're a funny man. Um, but my question is, and this is what I'm going to be experimenting with because I think this could be interesting. Is can we use AI to create images for our backdrops? Can we get it to produce a very long panoramic image, maybe in a watercolor style, or maybe in a photorealistic style that would be usable. That would be interesting. Or maybe if you're just doing a background behind a particular industry, you can, and I've tried some of these things with mixed results, but you can ask, give me a watercolor painting with, cracking towers in the background and see how that goes. So it could be useful for us in that. And I'm not sure what other image generation things it might do. Maybe it could help us create liveries and color schemes for freelance model railroads. Um, so I will give this word of warning. And wow, I've really run over on time, and I apologize for that. I will give this word of warning. If you're going to ask AI to do something, don't ask it to do something that looks like and name an artist. And there is AI that creates music. So you could theoretically create some music for your channel. But don't say, give me please create some jazz music for me that sounds like somebody who's not in the public domain yet. So, Kirk Whalum or a current performing jazz artist, Don't do that. Because, instead you need to say, give me some upbeat jazz with a piano and, or a jazz quartet and name the instruments and with a medium fast tempo, see what it does, and then say, make that tempo a little bit faster. Add in a trumpet or whatever, so that you can, it'll be your own thing. You don't want to have copyright infringement, intellectual property claims coming against you because of your music, because it sounds too much like a an artist. You don't want to do that. So your prompt should not be, give me something that sounds like ZZ Top or whatever, because that could get you into trouble. But you might be able to make music for your channel. And you might be able to, it sounds like JP was using it to try and, design his railroad's color scheme or perhaps a herald or something like that. And so, it would be easy, I think, to start creating prompts that says, well, Ron, I hear you. I hear you. It's not as creative as sitting down with a graphics program and designing your own logo, but some people can't do that, or they don't want to do that. That's not the most interesting thing about the hobby. And so they actually get something. I will say this about using AI. You don't own what it creates. Anything that you create is public domain. So just keep that in mind. Sparky, I, like a lot of people, I'm using ChatGPT. I've got a paid subscription to ChatGPT. But I think you can get ChatGPT 2.0 for free, a limited number of prompts to experiment with it. So just go to chatgpt.com and poke around, and you will find it there if you're not pulling my leg, which you could be, in which case consider my leg properly pulled. So what do you all think we could use AI for alternatively? You've got the image generation, you've got the music. What else can it do? I mean, it can write things. Okay, so if you wanted operating rules for your railroad, it could probably do that. Now, it may go out and find the operating rules of another railroad and modify them to meet your specifications. Is that a problem? I mean, I don't think so. So, yeah, so Yeah, why does everything cost money? You know, Kyle, AI is actually, there's actually a lot of talk about how much energy AI is using, that it's actually impacting the global climate, that the computing power necessary for all this is such an energy drain that it's a problem for the environment. That's just unbelievable to me. But it is a lot of computing going on. So, that's that's part of why it costs. It is expensive. There's a lot of programming. They're paying a lot of AI tutors, that sort of thing. But it is a lot of fun. It's not that expensive. It's like $10 a month or something like that, or $20 a month, and for ChatGPT anyway. And I think their image generation stuff is leading the industry right now. Um, but I don't know what else you all think we might be able to use AI for, but I think we should not be afraid of it, and we should try to figure out ways that it'll make our hobby better and make things interesting. I wonder if it could be trained to do layout planning. You know? Ah, okay, I hear you, Sparky. Yeah, doesn't shock me. Um, Start 3 Mile Island to power AI for Google. Is that true? I didn't think 3 Mile Island ever totally shut down. Just one reactor. There were multiple reactors. I don't know. I don't know enough about it, to tell you the truth. Yeah, I don't know what I don't know what AI could do for us, JP, but I'm curious. Um, I'm curious what it could do. It might make things easier and more fun, and especially to do the parts of the hobby that aren't your favorite parts of the hobby. So, Kyle, I don't want you to have AI for a girlfriend. You can do better than that. So, I don't know. So I just think we should not be afraid of AI. I'm going to go ahead and wind down here. I've talked well beyond what I expected to talk about. And to talk about sidetracking, I went into AI. Yeah, that's right, Mark. That's one thing we got to keep in mind about AI. It's just a computer right now. It's not controlling an army of robots that can go out and do something. The act of creation is still, I think, uniquely human. Um, but yeah, I do like the idea of using AI to kind of do some of the stuff that I don't want to be creative about. I don't even really care about. So, maybe that is, logo design. You don't have a lot of experience. You don't really want to do that. Ron and I like to do that kind of stuff, but maybe you don't. Well, tell it, I want to design a railroad layout herald for me that's oval. It's got a gold border and a maroon center, and it says, you know, such and such railroad in an arc, and in the center there is a oval shaped picture of a mountain goat or whatever, and see what it does. And then you can tweak that image. You can tell it to do different. You can save that image in case you need it, and then you can tweak it. So, okay, Mike, you obviously know a lot about this. Steve, I don't think we need AI for those things, Steve. So, all right. Well, hey, I am going to wind this sucker down. I really appreciate the camaraderie, the discussion, um, and your patience listening to me. Now, Dwight Curley said the Bob Show, and I want to make sure, and he was saying that in jest. I'm not suggesting that Dwight was saying anything negative. Let me go back to my main view here. Um, Dwight was not trying to insult me or anything like that. We had a good laugh about it, but I still am taking that to heart. Are you enjoying what I'm doing here? Am I talking too much? What should I do differently? Feel free to send me some comments. My email is on the About page of my YouTube channel. Feel free to let me know what I could be doing differently. I want to make sure that I'm delivering the kind of content that you desire. So, with that, I will sign off and I will see you next time. A reminder, Brian and Iron Horse has got the next Sidetrack Sunday show. So, I will see you online, I am sure, between now and then. But next Sunday at 8 Eastern, it's Brian at the Iron Horse. Take care, y'all. Have a good night. Bye bye.